Guys, welcome back to the Leave It to the Judges MMA show. This is our UFC 311 preview. First pay-per-view of 2025. They're starting the year off with a big bang. This whole card is stacked, let alone the main and co-main event. We're going to go top to bottom, covering the card, the storylines, the fights. Guys, happy 2025. Let's start at the tippy top. We got ourselves a treat here. A rematch. Islam Makhachev, the lightweight champion, versus Arman Tsarukyan. I'm very excited for this fight. I think out of everyone in the division, Arman has the best chance to beat Islam. I'm not saying he does, but I think this is going to be a very compelling fight. And yeah, why don't you guys break it down for the fans?
All right, I'll start with this one, man. I'll start with this one, man. We know what the fuck going on. All right, we already know what the fuck going on. We've seen this fight before. Granted, this is two different versions of both guys. Arman, that was his first fight coming into the UFC. They clearly thought he was pretty talented enough to, start off with such a high profile fight. Um, and then Makhachev, you know what I mean, took the fight. Clearly not scared of anybody. Why would he be? He's the best in the world. Um, might even be could have even be Khabib, but that's a story for another day. But in this matchup, I just feel like Islam's got the tools to beat Arman. Um, as we've seen in their first fight, like Islam definitely has a striking advantage, I would say, and a cardio advantage. This going five, I think, even makes it an easier fight for Islam. I think if we're gonna fight a 3 rounder, I think Arman would have a pretty good chance of beating him because Arman comes out really good early, really explosive with the kicks. His striking always looks pretty crispy early, and his grappling seems on point early. He just seems to fade a little bit, and then he can get caught in some bad positions, like and just not have enough energy to get out of them. Like we first seen this in the Gamrot fight, really, where like rounds 1 through 3, it was like he looked like he was on pace to winning, but then out like midway through round two, I mean midway through round three, like his cardio just kind of gave out, and he was just kind of like just barely getting out grappled. And I think that if he can do it to him, Islam definitely can in the later stages. So I think that this is, like you said, Ed, probably the division's best chance to beat Islam. And I think that it's not a very good chance at the same time.
Uh, you nailed it on the head. I think the cardio issues Armin's had in the past, I think haunts him in this kind of matchup where it's all about pacing, and I feel like he's either gonna have to come in starting off really crazy, or he's gonna have to settle back, stuff takedowns of Islam. Now I'm more interested in that part. I don't know who's gonna be initiating the first takedown. I could see Armin actually being someone going for those takedowns because I mean when Oliveira fought Islam, I don't know if he didn't really do that. I feel like he did attempt one, but he ended up kind of dragging him on Islam on top of him instead of getting the takedown. But I believe Armin will try to go for the power double legs, the single legs. I think he's definitely going to go for it for sure. But these Dagestanis, man, they're different.
Every time.
They have a whole team of champs right now talking about four fighters, Islam Makhachev,
Oh wow.
Uzman. But I don't count Bilal. He's not part of their team. Yeah. But Usman Nurmagomedov was in Bellator, correct?
Yeah.
Or I guess PFL now. Uh, and then I'm gonna just throw Khabib in there just cause. And then you got Umar finding the co-main, and I think they're a combined record of like 91-1, I believe, something crazy like that. These guys just know how to win. And I just feel like as improved Armin is, watching their first fight, Islam out-grappled him. He outpaced him. And I think he clearly won the fight. I don't think he challenged Islam. Like he had moments, but I don't know. Islam looked comfortable in there against him the first time. He's a lot better now than he was. I think he's made even bigger leaps than Armin has.
100%. 100%.
And I just think it's a very tough matchup for Armin to win, especially if he can get him out in the first three. I think his gas tank is not made for rounds 4 and 5. I liked what I saw in the Oliveira fight, but it was a lot slower of a pace. So I think his gas tank was just better in that fight because of that.
And even the fact that you mentioned the Oliveira fight, like another thing that like gives me confidence is the fact that like even in round one, I think Charles like mounted him or something. Like he ended up in a horrible position against Charles in round one of their last fight, and then in round three, that's another potential like sub that like Charles could have got on him. Really, like he ended the fight in a sub, so it's kind of like if Charles is doing that to him, um, and getting him in these bad positions, like Islam a lot stronger than Charles. I think we could all agree, at least like physically speaking. And like if you start gassing out against Islam, like he can easily just like will more easily get you in these bad positions. And like we've seen that like once it hits the ground and you're gassed out, like Islam a finisher in there, man. He will get that neck. He has a tight squeeze, and he will get him up out of there. I think. I would assume that like he does finish this fight this time around. Honestly,
Hmm,
with
interesting. Shit.
But yeah,
I feel like it's a bold take.
one thing, just one more. Um, it's also why I feel like the finish. I don't think Armin can finish Islam. I don't think he has the sub ability, or that's not a word, but whatever. I don't think he has the tools to find the submission against Islam ever. He's gonna have to win this fight basically grinding him and hold it, lay and pray. Just like I said against Oliveira, the same way. That's why I think Oliveira still is the best one to beat Islam because he can find the chokes. Even though I do admit I would take Islam if they were to rematch, but I still think my boy Oliveira has the best chance because all-time leading submissions, y'all. We got the most subs ever over here, so we can find it. But I'm sorry, Ed. You can
No,
continue.
that's a good point. I was just saying though, like the reason I say this fight, I think it's gonna go a decision either way, and I think it will be a really close fight. The last fight with Islam, I feel like a lot of people, including us, we just expected him to run over Poirier. He did finish him, but that was a pretty competitive fight. One judge had it basically scored 2-2. I don't agree with that, but Islam at times had some trouble getting Poirier down. But he did finish him in the end. I think Armin obviously is way better there. Armin's best position is when he's grappling offensive and he's on top, and it's virtually impossible to get on top of Islam. I think where Islam is going to pull away rounds 4 and 5 is into striking. I think he's a much better striker. The power's pretty similar, but I think Islam just has better technique. I could see the first 3 rounds like going 2-1 either way, but 4 and 5, I just see Islam taking over and getting a close decision, but unanimous.
I kind of agree with you just in the fact that like I do think that like in the first three rounds the fight will be very competitive. Arman when he's fresh is a very like stylistically difficult matchup for Islam. Like just because I think he does have a lot of the grappling to like keep Islam off of him. And I think that even though Islam like has made like leaps and strides like on the feet, like I think that it is knowing you have the grappling in your back pocket like helps him strike. You know what I mean? Where it's like you know that no one's gonna probably take you down. You don't have to really too much worry about that usually, and also just like you know that like if things get a little hairy on the feet, you can just switch right into wrestling mode. Um, I think that like helps his striking game a lot, and I think that with Arman, like he's one of the few people that at least can like, if it starts to go bad for Islam on the feet, he can't count on easily taking Arman down early. So I think that that's like why Arman's like one of the hardest stylistic matchups in the division. But even with that being said, I think that like Islam has the striking advantage, and I think that Arman like to win the fight, I see him having to try to grapple offensively. He has to try to mix that in. And I think that even if he's holding Islam against the cage, the effort that he's going to spend in the early part of the fight, trying to like dictate and hang in the grappling, is just going to gas him out more. And then I think that once they get back to space, Islam's going to start piecing him up and maybe just find a club and sub eventually.
Well, all right, guys. Let's move on then. Or no, actually, one more question. If Arman wins, they're probably going to run the trilogy. It'll be 1-1. If Islam Makhachev wins, give me a name, guys. Who do you think is next for him?
Shavkat Rakhmonov.
Okay.
That's it. That's the fight, man. That's the fight. I think that the UFC in this era of like allowing people to be double champs, I think that they owe it to him, especially before they face this potential Ilya Taporia fight. I think that they owe it to him to let him do what he wants to do. Um, he gave Volk a crack at the dream. You know what I mean? The double champ dream. So I think that like I would say, even though he hasn't cleaned out the division necessarily in terms of title defenses against like top contenders, he has beat the contenders that like beat all of the other guys. You know what I mean? He's beat the gatekeepers of his division, and Poirier, um, and then Charles. I think that Charles and them are just like beating everybody else and kind of keeping people from getting to his level to fight him, and that's not his fault, honestly. So I mean, I think that the UFC owes it to him to like let him go up and make history. He even said he'd fight Bilal too, mind you. He said whoever wins that fight, like he wants to fight them. And I mean, like for him to be, training with Bilal and shit and all that, and knowing that he can whoop Bilal's ass, I love it. I love to see it. He's like, I'm not worried about Bilal. If he somehow, by some miracle, you know, gets past Shafkat, I'll whoop his ass too. And I love that. I love that about Islam. So like, I want to see the UFC let him go up and make history. I also think that he's like he could potentially defend both. Even I would say I'm pretty sure he can get pretty big if he like went up to 170.
I think Oliveira deserves a rematch just because the second fight was supposed to happen. It was supposed to happen,
But he's coming up a loss.
but it was supposed. No, he won. We just beat Michael Chandler.
Oh yeah, okay. But I'm just saying, like
We'll
against
get one more fight. One more fight.
one more fight, one more fight.
Because he did like he beat Gaethje and Poirier. Like he is like the 1B right there, basically. Like Armin's 1A, he would be 1B.
All I'm saying is like Islam will come back down and defend the lightweight title again. But I'm saying in the meantime, while like he needs a contender to like emerge, and that can be Charles, it could be someone else. But while he needs that, let him go up and like especially if he doesn't take damage in this fight, which I don't think he really will. Like even if it's a hard fight, I don't think it's like a very damaging fight. It's gonna be very grapple heavy in my mind, but I just think that like let him go up and try to make history, man. Like,
I'm
and
cool.
then he can come back and fuck with Charles a little bit.
I'm cool with that. Just don't run from the rematch. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
He ain't
If he
ducking
just somehow stays up there by accident,
Dude, after Oliveira, which yeah, I would like to see that rematch. After that, there's literally no one in this lightweight division that's deserving of a title shot, or like I could see being deserving. Like the old guard, Gaethje, Poirier, they're not going to get another title shot. I don't think. Holloway just got here; he doesn't deserve a title shot. Hooker, like he's kind of the only one surging in the division right now, but even him, he doesn't stand a chance against Islam. Let alone a lot of these top five guys. I'd pick them over Hooker.
I would. I mean, we're gonna talk about him. He's on this card, right? But Money Moicano could be in the situation.
I hate to be this. I'm just not that high on Moicano, but I get the hype. I do get the hype.
That's crazy.
Yeah, okay, we'll talk about it later. But shout out Fazeev, he's making the comeback. He'll make the push. You know,
Where is that man?
he's coming off that ACL tear. But let's move on, guys. Co-main event got another banger. We got Marab versus Umar. Team Khabib is at the forefront. Minus 325 for Umar, plus 260 for Marab. Kind of crazy. You look at Marab's resume, it's kind of crazy. He's up there in the bantamweight GOAT discussion, in my opinion. But he has a really tall task to climb, guys. Umar Nurmagomedov. Is he deserving of that minus 325 label?
I would say it's a little bit disrespectful to Marab, but I don't think that it's about Marab. I think it's about people believing in him. Um, I think that Marab has proven to be the boogeyman against most guys. Like Marab, I think that he would be a fat favorite over most people in his division outside of Umar. So I think that it's just more of a testament to Umar and like believing in the Nurmagomedov name, believing in the Daggy momentum, believing in Coach Khabib. It's really all of that. Plus, I think that he has a significant striking advantage. And the only place that I think that Marab has a chance is just maybe by out cardioing him. But like, I would imagine the Nurmagomedov like cardio to be like good enough to at least like nullify Marab's cardio enough to get like more striking off and like maybe even find a sub if he can like clip Marab at some point. But yeah, I just think that yeah, I think if Cejudo could take Marab down in round one, then Umar could, especially when they're fresh, out grapple Marab, and he can definitely outstrike him. So I think that the tag is like maybe a little higher than like I would put it, but like I understand why it is where it is.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking about it earlier with their whole team, 91-1. It's very understandable why he is this big of a favorite. I do think it's very high though. I think he should be more in a minus 200 type of range.
Minus 250 even, I would say.
I'd say a little below even, but the more I thought about it, ooh, I'm excited for this fight. I think I watched the Sandhagen fight back. As impressive Umar was, the wrestling I was like, eh. He didn't really hold Sandhagen down. Sandhagen was able to get his back taken about like 8 times in the fight and still got up pretty handily, I would say, throughout the fight. And the way Marab's pressuring everyone, the way he's getting these takedowns, I could see Marab maybe being the better wrestler and getting Umar down. I think that's possible for sure. As good of a wrestler I think Umar is, and I have caliber of his training partners, his coach. I could see Marab being better in those positions, in the transitions and everything down there. But I will agree, Umar on the feet is like much better than Marab. I think the kicks will be very important in this fight for Umar. He needs to really like these dominant wrestlers kick their fucking calves out. Just kick them out. Like that will immediately just unstable them to get those power legs, those one single legs, just everything. Like, so I really want Umar to do that. I think he can, and I think he's quick enough to avoid the takedowns of Marab, but Marab is definitely an engine that could keep coming throughout the fight. And unless Umar gets him out early through a TKO, which is possible because Marab a little chinny, we all know this. But if he doesn't do that early, I think Marab can build momentum as the fight goes along, um, just through his pace and pressure. I don't really know who I take here. I was really convinced Umar was gonna win this, but the more I thought about it and the Sandhagen performance, I'm like, hmm, hmm. But it just feels destined. Both of the Dagestans win these fights, doesn't it? It just feels so destined. So I will take Umar, but I'm less confident than I was a few weeks ago thinking about this matchup.
That's fair.
Um,
What
I'm
about
gonna
you?
see. I'll go next. I'll still pick Umar. Kind of similar to point to you, Clark. With the O'Malley fight with Marab, yes, Marab did dominate, but that fight was like it was pretty boring and a lot closer than people remember. I think Umar is just going to be able to do a lot better in those positions, and he's damn near just as much an elite striker as O'Malley. Actually, no, that's a bit of a stretch, but he's got amazing striking, way better than Marab's. But I get where you're coming from, Clark. Like Marab has looked insane. He has arguably the best cardio in UFC history. He doesn't not get tired. He's showed some flaws, but he just doesn't lose. I'm still gonna pick Umar, just like you said. It just seems like destiny. I can't bet against him until they lose. It's kind of a boring breakdown, but yeah, I'm gonna go with Umar also. I'm gonna say fourth round stoppage, ground and pound.
I'm gonna say
Yeah,
I'm gonna say third round TKO, knee to the fucking face, and maybe
Oh,
I mean he is like Morab is pretty fucking short, and I think that like I can see him just kind of like running into a knee at some point, like just trying to like aggressively hunt these takedowns. I see him just running into something. I think he gets sniped, and I think he probably gets subbed like a little club and sub. I kind of see it going.
okay. So yeah, we know exactly what Marab's game plan is gonna look like. It looks like pretty much the same every fight. It's super effective, not knocking him, but like, what do you guys think Umar's game plan is gonna be or should be going in against Marab to take the belt?
I think that his game plan is just to strike. I don't think that he's gonna be trying to grapple like too much. I think he's gonna use his grappling defensively, just to keep Morab off of him, and then just try to. I also think that like there is a good chance that like he can like get to good positions against Morab. Morab is pretty small, and I could see like maybe in a scramble or something, like he gets on the back and just kind of like holds him there type shit, salts out the round. I can see like random shit like that happens where like Umar might just like get the better of a transition and like secure a position that like now Marab he's not taking too much damage, but like he's not doing anything offensively, and then kind of just salting away some rounds. I can see the fight getting a little mucky and like boring that way. But overall, I think that like Umar's strat should be to like just strike with him and just keep him away with the kicks, use the range, jab, jab, and then try to catch him coming in. And then when Murab inevitably does get in there for some takedown, some grappling, I think that like he can just hold his own in that and like win the fight that way.
yeah. I mean, he's gonna want to stay on the feet 100%. I think like honestly, Marab doesn't get a takedown in the first two rounds. Like if Umar is stuffing them, like the fight is good as won at that point. I think he's just way too crisp. I don't think he's a better striker than O'Malley, but I think he is just as good. I think he's just as crisp as him.
Okay.
I don't. He doesn't have the attributes. He doesn't have the long reach. Just the insane massiveness of O'Malley, and I think O'Malley is the quicker fighter, but Umar is just as good as him on the feet. So if he's stuffing them early, I think he finds a TKO in like round three or even earlier because he's too precise. Like he's gonna find the right one at least once.
Yeah, like you said about him chopping the legs down, I want to see Umar attack that body, man. In that O'Malley fight, Marab got hurt to the body really bad in that last round, but there just wasn't enough time to do anything. So,
I just think that like Umar a big reason that even Sean O'Malley couldn't like strike the way he normally does in that fight is the threat of the takedown. Like that just makes you have to play it a lot more safe. You can't really extend yourself too much. You know Morab's gonna like shoot on you, and I think that that did stymie a lot of his offense. I just think that like knowing that he has good wrestling and grappling will just allow him to just flow more freely and like strike more freely than O'Malley was against Morab specifically. But that's not to say that like I think that just striking again, like let's say that like neither one of them have to worry about a takedown threat. I'm not gonna say that Omar's a better striker than O'Malley, but in this particular matchup, I think he can do better because he doesn't have to like constantly live in fear of the takedown, whereas O'Malley definitely did.
So it looks like in the Cohen main event, we both agree we're taking we're taking Team Habib here, we're taking Team Russia. This next one, I feel like, I mean, based on these odds at least, we might have some differing opinions here. Yuri versus Jamal Hill, number two versus number three. It's a pick 'em fight, basically, split down the middle. The last two Pereira victims, both coming off losses to Alex Pereira via knockout this year. Um, this is the people's main event, in my opinion. This fight is absolutely insane. I wish it was 5 rounds. I don't even think it'll need three. Someone's going to sleep here. I am so excited for this fight. I love both these fighters. It's gonna be a war. You guys talk about the fight before we give out our predictions.
Take it, Clark.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed on the head. Someone's going to sleep in this fight. I don't see how there's any other way this fight ends. Maybe an even scrappier decision, which I would be fine with. Let me see more rounds with them, but I think this is an extremely close matchup stylistically. I think their skills are very similar. Um, I think this comes down to, can Jamal Hill outpace Yuri, and can Jamal Hill avoid Yuri's crazy combos and creativity? I think that's the story of the fight in terms of which one of them gets the KO.
Do you also think that it will like for sure in the KO
I think so.
or finish at least?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Um, yeah, for me, I'm really excited for this matchup. Um, like you said, the two last Pereira victims. I kind of wish that both of them were coming off of like a win as opposed to this being the get it back on track fight because I don't want one of these guys to like you said earlier. I like both of them, um, and I don't really want them to both. I don't want one of them to be coming off two losses really. So I kind of wish like they both had like a tune up fight in between this, but fuck it. If Jamal Hill's gonna get back to the Pereira fight and get that rematch ever, like he's got to beat Yuri here. If he loses this fight too, he kind of loses credibility on that title deservability. So yeah, I think I'm gonna take Jamal Hill here because, like you said, even though I think that Yuri could like potentially knock him out for sure, I think Yuri can knock anybody out. It's like light heavyweight; these are big boys, but I think that because of Yuri's funky style, it kind of like leads to him doing a lot of explosive movements. And that's fine and good when you like get lower level comp out of there, but like with guys that can actually survive for a while, I feel like it just gets dicey for him late. I think that the fact that it's a 3 rounder kind of helps him more so, but like because he doesn't have to like worry about like too much cardio problems. But I think that Jamal Hill's a little bit more crisp in his striking. It's a little bit more like technical, and I think that that will allow him to have a slight cardio advantage as the fight goes on longer. Um, so I'm gonna assume that Jamal Hill can catch Yuri maybe late round two, early round three, maybe even late round three. But I think that yeah, I can see uh Yuri just getting clipped late at some point just because he's tired a little bit.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna take the cleaner striker of the two. I'm gonna take Jamal Hill. I also just think he's taken a way less damage this past year or two. Yuri, even in the fights he's winning, like against Rakic, he's getting beat the fuck up. And I don't think you can take those type of shots after taking all that damage, especially against a guy like Jamal Hill. Plus, just Jamal Hill, this man is coming off one of the most embarrassing losses ever. We all know how like he was just the ultimate cope man, the salt master. It would be so embarrassing for him to lose this fight. And yeah, I think Hill at this point is going to be a little more durable, be able to eat shots better. I got Hill by late first round knockout, I'm going to say.
Ooh.
This is a real tough one for me. I'm not, because I don't know what Jamal Hill's mindset's like right now. Like, this man keeps talking about Pereira, talking about shit in the past that he needs to get out of his head. It's living in his head rent free. And I feel like Yuri just doesn't care. Like, after the first Pereira knockout, went out there against Rakic. He was losing, but came back and got an amazing knockout, and then lost again to Pereira in a very devastating way. But I feel like Yuri's just like ready to fight. Or Jamal Hill, I don't know. The things he's saying is just like concerning to me a little bit. So I don't know where his mindset's at for this fight. I would favor him just because, like you said, I think he's the more technical, faster guy that could and I think the speed will be huge in this type of fight, especially with their powers. If Jamal Hill can just get to him quicker with the first lead overhand right, I think he could definitely get him out first round for sure, just off speed. But I just don't know where his mindset's at. That's my little worry about Jamal Hill coming into this fight. Because I feel like Yuri's very samurai, just focused on the fight. I don't think he cares that Peja finished him. And I mean, Yuri's only losses in the UFC are to Peja.
Yeah,
But
sure.
I
I
don't
mean, to
know.
be honest, I seen him getting his ass whooped on the feet by Glover though as well, gassed the fuck out, and that kind of also always plays like a, even though he did because Glover randomly just choked that fight away, being on some old shit. He did win that fight, but like I know what was seeing, and like Glover, like I love the man, like he was a dog at like 42, but like he was still 42 and he was still putting good hands. He damn near had Yuri out on the feet like several times in that fight, including in the end sequence that he like shot a dumb takedown and ended up getting choked out because he was gassed as fuck. But like, yeah, I think that like yeah, I just see those cardio issues, and like even though technically he didn't lose that fight, but like I also saw like when I was watching it live, I definitely saw him. He was losing that fight. You know what I mean? So like, I have to keep that little caveat in my mind. Like Glover was fucking 40, like 42, I think actually.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Yeah, and both of these guys are coming off terrible injuries. I know it was a while ago, but people forget that. They both suffered really bad injuries while champions. But yeah, this should be a super fun one. Just two also just really fun personalities and characters are kind of polar opposites, like you kind of pointed out, Clark. So this should be a super fun one. We're all taking Hill here. Did you said Hill, right, Clark?
Yeah, I'm leaning Hill. I might change it on the day of.
yeah, but
All right.
it's yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's one of those. It's one of those like vibe. Like if the vibe is off of Hill, I might pick Flip. But right now, I'm pretty. I think that like Hill just in being more technical, I think he should win for sure. But
Should be a fun press conference also. I just love hearing Jamal Hill rant. He's so funny.
Mhm.
But let's move down the card, guys. We got number 9, Beneil Dariush versus number 10, Hoinata Moicano. Clark, Moicano is one of your boys. Why don't you start us off with this one and break it down for us?
I mean, I named him, I believe, in a video over a year ago. He was the most underrated fighter in the UFC. And he even has proved me wrong because I thought BSD was damn near going to beat him just stylistically. But the fact he went out there and put a whooping on that man that was crazy. And
separated shoulder, I think. Like with it, I think his
yeah,
shoulder like popped out or some shit too. He didn't give a fuck. And
Holder was popped out as well and he still did that. So he's just another level of tough, clearly, definitely determined right now to be the world champion. And he's just a gritty fighter that is very good wrestler, very capable on the ground as a grappler as well, can find submissions. I'd say he's one of the better submission artists right now in that division. Um, Beneil though is very capable himself down there. Very good wrestler himself. Very good grappler. Well, let's just be for real, y'all. Did you see the first embedded episode? And did you see the gray hair and when he was working the pads? He's looking old in there, y'all. He's looking old and weathered. So I just feel like Moicano has way too much momentum right now. And he matches up so perfectly with Beneil because I would say Moicano, we'll see the striking this time around. I think it's improving, but it's not great still. And defensively, his defensive striking is still very timid and just like he definitely can get cracked out there, but Beneil's shots I think are just gonna be way too slow. I think it's a simple jab over left hand, just combo that I think Moicano will just be too quick for him. And I think this fight is kind of determined how the wrestling will go. I think that's how the outcome of the fight. I think a lot of it will be on the ground. I don't think they'll be on the feet that long, but I think Moicano honestly just at this point has way too much momentum, hungry. I think Beneil's like 2 fights away from retirement at this point. He's coming off 2 brutal KO losses as well. I just don't see it. I think Money Moicano gets the win and introduces his name into a title challenger. He'd move all the way up to 6, so he'd be right in that combo.
You know, I'm gonna go ahead and agree with you. On the main thing being that Beneil Dariush just looks old as fuck, man. Um, I feel like he always kind of like he kind of looks slow from a lot of his career, and like a lot of those like early like jujitsu based fighters, kind of like the striking just wasn't as crispy. I think that like over the course of his career, though, like his striking definitely improved Dariush's, but like to the point where I think that like he even is to a solid point. But like you said, like by now his like punches are so slow. It's like they're in molasses every time. And like when you like I think that there was once a version of Dariush that could have given Charles Oliveira a really good fight. And I think that like the way that Charles kind of just steamrolled over him kind of just proved, like you said, like well, he might be able to beat like inexperienced guys, like still maybe even, but like if like someone with like this level of experience as Moicano, I don't see it happening because he's just physically so declined at this point that like yeah, I just don't know. Just don't think he has it in him athletically. Um, I see them like he can probably do good early, but like I see Moicano just kind of like being quicker in the grappling transitions and able to like kind of have his way land shots and maybe get Benil out of there by like round 3 or maybe sub him, club and sub him. Yeah, I just think that like it just goes bad for Dariush, like particularly on the feet, and then I think that it will somehow lead to some transitions, but I just see Moicano being able to especially damage him on the feet with the striking and like have a cardio advantage for sure, and like I just see him winning pretty convincingly and being like I mean I think a lot of like hardcore people know BSD. I think more people do know Dariush though, just because like he's older, he's been around the game forever. So I think that it will be a fight that like brings him into like some new eyes as a title contender.
Yeah, Beneil's coming off 2 brutal knockouts. To be fair, that was against much higher level competition, but still, it's going to affect you. I mean, in his prime, I think this would be a really fun fight. But yeah, you guys said it. Moicano's just the younger fighter. He's on a really nice win streak. His stock is rising. Yeah, it- shout out Moicano. He'll get a nice dub here. But let's move on, guys. This fight's a lot more compelling. I'm very back and forth on this one myself. Middleweight bout. We got Kevin Holland versus the former one championship double champion or triple champion.
I believe he was triple.
I believe triple champion of one FC. This is a pick'em fight also versus the Trailblazer Kevin Holland. I was originally picking Holland, but Clark kind of swayed me off camera. Holland, every time I pick him, he just doesn't show up for me. It just looks like he's very like lackadaisical in there. He doesn't really care what's happening. I don't know. He just doesn't go for the win as much as I like to him, as much as he used to. DeRitter looked pretty good against who did he just fight?
Mearshart,
You're,
Mearshart.
Mearshart. I'm gonna go with DeRitter by a decision via grappling. Basically, he's gonna dominate the grappling department in this fight and win a decision.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and agree with you. I could even see Kevin Holland getting subbed if he just like doesn't give a fuck in there. Which is a shame because I think Kevin Holland could win this fight. Like a version of him could win this fight. The thing is, I just don't see the hunger, like you said. Um, I feel like he's content to get a paycheck. I think he probably gets a decent paycheck every fight just because he has a big name. He had that one year where he was fighter of the year, had like won like 5 fights or something like so. He's kind of stamped in like the public's eyes. He's pretty beloved. People fuck with him. He talks shit like so. I just think that like he's pretty content with just making his paycheck, and I think that DeRitter has greater aspirations, and I think that just that alone will carry him to a dub here. I think.
yeah, this is an interesting matchup for me because I did I liked a lot of things I saw from De Ritter in his debut versus Mearshart. The grappling was very on point. The wrestling was very elite. I think he could give a lot of strikers in this division problems just through the wrestling alone. He seems very capable down there, pretty good ground and pound. But man, his defense, like his striking isn't bad. I think he has decent kicks, a nice jab, 1, 2. He can move around pretty well, but his defensive boxing is atrocious. Like I was seeing old ass Mearshart land a few good ones to him, like just outspeeding him to the face, like no cover up, no head movement. And that is pretty concerning going up against Kevin Holland, who, even though he kind of chokes fights, he still is a very capable fighter who can put the lights out of anyone for sure, just through his technique, his power, his length. So it's an interesting fight. How Because I feel like if it stays on the feet very for a long period of time,
Yeah,
I can see Kevin Holland finding him pretty easily and
I
finishing him based on what I've seen. I do know DeRitter kind of has one of those comeback chins from one championship days. And even the last fight I saw him in, one where he lost his belt, he was fighting like a heavyweight champion and just couldn't really take the punches. But, he was getting back up from them. So maybe his chin's good enough. I don't really know. Because I guess, Mearshart doesn't punch very hard, I guess. So that didn't really matter in that fight. But I'm going to take DeRitter just because Kevin Holland continues to not be able to stuff takedowns against very quality wrestlers. And I think DeRitter is pretty elite. I don't know about elite, but he's a very capable and good wrestler. So I would take him.
Okay. Looks like we're all going DeRitter there. Man, I think we agreed on every single fight of the main card. Based on looking at the prelims, I think it's probably gonna be the same. Let's move to the prelims, guys. Though I'm not too sure what's going on with this Guskov fight. I guess Johnny Walker pulled out earlier today or something. You could take my hardcore card away from me. I don't really know shit about Billy Elikana. I don't know if you guys do.
Who knows who
no,
that
I,
is?
I have no idea who that is, but I mean, the
Yeah.
the fact that he's still favored over Gustav like should kind of speak volumes about what they think about Gustav. To be honest,
I think this is ridiculous. I thought Gustav was gonna knock out Walker, and he's gonna knock this dude out. I don't think these odds are updated. There's no way. I don't. It's like, who the hell is this guy?
yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know who this guy is at all. Like,
So
he literally has no picture next to his name. Like for those watching guys, like
going to DraftKings now.
Yeah.
Yeah, see
But
what the odds are, but yeah, I have no idea. But I'm just gonna take Guskov because he has a training camp and like, yeah.
who were you gonna take against Walker in this fight?
Um, Guskov is like he grapples, no,
He's
like
like he knocks some people out. He knocked out Span, I know.
he did not. Yeah, if you can knock out Span, you can knock out fucking Walker. Yeah, I was gonna take him,
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I was probably gonna take Gusto.
but
What are the odds saying, Clark?
Let's say.
it's really not because it's literally just because of Johnny Walker's chin though more so than anything. I think that like
Literally it. That's
I
literally it.
I believe less in his chin than I do in his striking. You know what I mean? I
Okay.
think if he had any semblance of a chin, I would take Johnny Walker because he's more explosive than Guskov, and I think that he could like probably knock him out. But I just think that like in a battle where one guy has no chin and one guy has some chin, I'm gonna take the guy with some chin at least.
Dude, yeah. Guskov's like the cursed, bizarro version of Anthony Smith. He's coming to fuck this nobody up, bro. I'm just kidding. Shout out Guskov though.
Watch Billy Elikana whoop his ass. No,
I posted it.
It's not posted yet. Okay, so they're probably still figuring that out. Payne Talbot taking on
Rodney Barcel.
Rano Borzello. So this fight actually is going to be. I think Talbot's going to win, but this is actually a big step up in competition. I think for Talbot. I don't respectfully. I don't remember the last guy he fought, but like this should be like kind of compelling, at least to see where Talbot is.
In his last fight, he fought this guy named Gamori, but like before that, he fought Cody Simon and like that. I mean Cameron Simon, and that's the one that like really impressed me. That's the one that like I was already pretty high on him just because of like I watched him on what was it Dana White's Contender Series or whatever, and he whooped ass, and so like I definitely was like pretty high on him, but like I didn't know that he was gonna whoop Cameron Simon's ass like that. So like that was the fight that really like put me on notice. Like oh, like he's actually like I thought he was here, but he's actually like up here somewhere. He's like really close to the upper echelon in that division. I feel like, and he's still so young. So yeah, I think that this is a big step up in comp, but I think that he should handle it with flying colors. Honestly,
Yeah. Payne Talbot, the UFC are very much trying to push this man as the next future champ. I think the star of that division, based on the fights they're moving him up quick. I think this is a big step up. But I think he beats Barcelos because Barcelos, a lot like Mr. Walker, does not have a chin himself. He's been knocked out several times in his last few fights. And I think that's why they gave Talbot this fight. I think Talbot's very talented. I don't know if it's warranted a 1,500 favorite against
definitely,
Barcelos. I
definitely.
don't, yeah. I don't think that it warrants that, but I understand why based on his chin and just what Talbot is. I mean, Talbot's looked amazing. I think he's quickly becoming the next star in the division, the next up and comer. Uh, he's clearly a great fighter. Even in his past fights, he has a lot of experience going several rounds. I've heard a lot of tough fights as well, where he had to come back in them. So he definitely has good grit, power, the length for that division. I mean, he's
Cardio,
gonna win this fight. Yeah, I agree.
he's always like even keeled in there. I feel like he always seems really calm in there. Um, Kind of like reminiscent of like early featherweight Connor, where it's like no matter what was going on, he just seemed like he was not worried about their like what was going on in there. He wasn't really too concerned with like that featherweight power coming his way, their little short arms. And I think Peyton Talbot fights with like a similar like calmness that I think that lends itself to better cardio. Like the less you're worried in there, your cardio is just going to be better. And I think that like his ability to stay even keeled, even in like firefights, like that's definitely one of his best traits to me. So
I
yeah,
agree.
So yeah, it should be a nice little fun showcase fight. All right, guys. I think this is probably the last fight we're going to talk about, unless you guys want to speak on anything else. We got number 6 heavyweight Jailton Almeida taking on the Polar Bear. Number 7 Sergey Spivak. And man, at one point Almeida was like looking at it as a sure fight title challenger, but friend of the channel Curtis Blades had to put that to a stop. And now we got number 6 versus 7. I mean, I guess kind of fun heavyweight fight. What do you guys feel about this one?
I'm gonna take Almeida. Um,
Same.
I think that like even against Curtis Blades, he was dominating round one, which I did not expect. He just ended up overcommitting to a takedown, and he kind of got pounded out from Curtis Blades, he's a big man. My boy Curtis Blades, shout out Curtis Blades, man. That's my dog, but he's a big man, man, and you can't just eat hammer fist to the side of the head like infinitely and expect to like you know just eat that. Um, but I think that he proved that even against a wrestler of the caliber of Curtis Blades, um, his grappling is dominant, and I think that Curtis Blades is a lot better on the ground than Sergey Spivak. I don't expect Spivak to be able to stop him early. I think the fight goes right to the ground, like all his fights do, and I just see him like finding some kind of a sub before he gasses out.
I'm a big Almeida guy. I think he takes him down and just beats the crap out of him, to be honest. I think Almeida is very elite wrestler. I just want to point that out.
I agree. No, I think Almeida like he just got to work on the other facets of his game. His jiu-jitsu and wrestling is super elite. And at heavyweight, it's pretty hard to to find really good defensive wrestlers. So I think Almeida still has a bright future. Anything else you guys want to touch on the card?
Um, just shout out Ricky Tercios, man, doing the damn thing, weight. You know what I mean?
Sir.
I probably with him. I think he's gonna lose here. I feel like he's kind of just used in the UFC as cannon fodder. Just someone that like they built a little bit of a name for him. So like when people beat him, it's kind of like ooh, you know. Um, but yeah, I wish they would kind of give him a winnable fight for him. To be
Yeah.
honest.
Alrighty though, guys. Before we wrap it up, give me a performance of the night bonus and the fight of the night bonus. Who do you think they're going to? Give me one each.
Performance of the night, I'm going to go Moicano. I think he could probably viciously finish Dariush, in some kind of impressive fashion. And then fight of the night, I'm gonna go Marab Umar, and that's assuming it goes like kind of long. I think it could be Islam. I think it could be Yuri Jamal Hill. Actually, I'm gonna go Yuri Jamal Hill. I think Yuri Jamal Hill might just be a banger. Just a kind of back and forth like on the feet fight that like that like the fans love. So I'm gonna go fight of the night Yuri Jamal Hill and yeah, I'm gonna go fight yeah, and then performance bonus Moicano.
Yeah, I'm gonna go performance of the night, Umar. I think he finds a TKO in there somewhere. And I'm gonna go find the night the same as well, Yuri versus Jamal Hill.
All right. Yeah, it should be a banger card, guys. First card of the new year, setting the tone, setting the standard. Going to be a banger. Make sure to check out our recap after the fact. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please check out the TikTok and our previous videos. We got some fun videos that we just posted. And let us know what your guys' predictions on the card is, and we'll see you on the next one.
Peace.
Peace.